lakes don't care what municipality they're in, obviously. And I get questions all the time from owners who presume that there's one set of rules that governs a lake. And you're gonna find out that's not the case. And I'm gonna show you why it's important to understand how these different rules can impact you as a property owner, not only on your property, but as you'll see, other properties on the lake that you share that body of water with. On Lake Fairview, for example, you can have two neighbors on the lake who are living under two different sets of rules. Different dock rules, different permitting agencies, different law enforcement agencies. And it can really kind of create some confusion a lot of times. And it's really important to understand what you're buying into when you buy a lake home, because a lot of people kind of presume that because you're on the lake, you're all living by the same set of rules, and you're not. And if you go across the street from Lake Fairview to Little Lake Fairview, the one I live on, we actually have 3 municipalities. So it can create a real hodgepodge of rules for owners to understand and live by. So it's not uncommon for somebody to buy a lakefront property and they say, okay, cool, I bought this, I own it, I can do what I want. And rarely do they understand that, first of all, you've got to run stuff through the specific municipality that you're a part of. In some cases, you might have to deal with the HOA if there is one. There's the Environmental Protection Department up at the state level, also at the county level. There's a water management district, and in some cases, you've got to deal with the Army Corps of Engineers. So it can be a real hodgepodge of government agencies that you're dealing with on permitting and really understanding the rules by which you're supposed to live on these lakes. And one of the areas that can really cause some potential conflict sometimes, property owners on a lake, you kind of feel a sense of community with your other lakefront owners, but they may be playing by a different set of rules, and that can create some issues sometimes. So my lake is a great example here on Little Lake Fairview. Several years ago, there was a property owner that wanted to file for a dock permit. That property happened to be one of the very few that sits inside the city of Winter Park, and more significantly, it happened to be the only property on the lake that was zoned commercial. Everybody else on the lake is residential. But that property owner was trying to get a dock permit, and there was a zoning hearing down at the city of Winter Park. Most of the residents on Little Lake Fairview kind of mobilized. They didn't want to have a commercial operation on the lake itself, so they went down to the city of Winter Park at the zoning hearing to lodge their dissent. And you can see where this is going. The owner wanted it. He went through the proper channels to get the permitting through his municipality. Most of the residents on the lake were opposed to it. They went down to the zoning hearing to express that. But guess what? They were talking to City of Winter Park commissioners who were elected by you-know-who, Winter Park residents. So we really didn't have a whole lot of political influence on that decision. And it was an eye-opening experience to see how municipal boundaries can really impact the behavior and the things, the activities that can happen on a particular body of water. Law enforcement, that can be another one that's extremely interesting and something that's important to understand as a lakefront owner. So Lake Fairview is a great example. It's a large lake. It has a City of Orlando boat ramp there, great access, easy for people to come in and drop their boat in and get out and spend some time on the water. And that also typically means on larger lakes like that you will have a hopefully a fairly consistent presence of law enforcement, especially on busy days and whatnot. But I've been on Lake Fairview before. I've seen Orange County Sheriff's Office out there. I've seen Fish and Wildlife officers out there. I've seen City of Orlando out there. And it's a great example where you have multiple agencies that have jurisdiction on this water. It can also lead to some confusion sometimes when you have an issue and you're trying to work with law enforcement to get it resolved. But when there's an issue out there, boaters are then trying to figure out, who do we call? Trying to get the right law enforcement agency to handle it it can be a real conundrum sometimes. And as a waterfront buyer, at the end of the day, it's your responsibility to do the due diligence to understand where these boundaries sit in relation to you and what else might be allowed or not allowed on the lake that you're about to buy into. Because once you're there and you're part of that body of water, you really become part of that community, and it can make a real difference on your experience on the water. You've heard me say it plenty of times before, waterfront is different, and this is a great example of some of the things that these issues just don't come up on a normal real estate transaction. And it's one of the reasons I love working with waterfront buyers and sellers. It kind of takes things to a whole nother level, and we kind of get to dig into some of these details, and yeah, I love it. So anyway, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Helps me understand what people are watching out there. If you want to see something more specific, let me know. Drop me a text, email, message down below. Would love that. And again, for all your waterfront searches, you know where to go, floridalakefront.com. I'm Mike Derenthal. Thanks for watching.